Hi everyone, I hope you're having a great day today. Today I wanted to talk about something that very much goes along with everything I talk about anyways. And that's kind of the common sense of health. And what I mean by common sense is there are so many times that doctors, physicians, what have you, will tell you that, something is way more complicated than it should be. But in my personal experience, a lot of health is actually common sense. And we innately know what we need to do to take care of our bodies if we would just trust ourselves. It's almost like the powers that be have tricked us and programmed us into believing that we are these complex, complicated vessels, beings that, have to be so carefully managed and monitored and looked after like a robot. And we're not. We are biologically natural. Completely natural. I've heard of people looking at DNA and finding literally every piece of every organic substance on the earth in our DNA. We're made up of creation itself. And it was absolutely designed that way, and our bodies absolutely respond that way. It's kind of like everything that is natural is what should be going into our bodies. Everything. And the way the seasons change, we also flow with the seasons if you can get deeply connected and one with that again. But because of our synthetic light, our synthetic temperatures in our house, our lack of sunshine, and just being out in nature, our bodies are so out of whack in so many ways. I always like to say that our body is a perfect healing map, or perfect map for our healing process. I think that some people manifest their issues internally through disease and sickness, and some people manifest their generational issues physically. I believe I've talked about it before, but it can be reiterated. I started doing work on myself with my fascia called fascia blasting not that long ago. I started in 2016 fascia blasting. And it was an absolute game changer for me. I lost 50 inches off my entire body without losing a single pound of weight. And people think that's ridiculous and don't understand how that works. But it's like if you crinkle up, I have paper right here. Look at this visual. Doing great, guys. If you crinkle up paper, that takes up more space than this. Right? Technically, because it's thicker than this. So when you start to comb out your fascia, when you start to brush through it like it's hair, because it's the consistency of hair, it will start to flatten back out again to where your blood can flow through it properly. Because if you have tangled fascia, it's like a kinking the hose, and your blood is literally the substance of life. Your DNA. Literally the substance of life. So if you have a kink in that substance of life, the area that it can't get to starts decaying and dying and having dis-ease. So I started doing that, and I lost a ton of inches and started to actually feel like I could gain muscle properly again, was never in pain after workouts, started going to the gym again. I was like the healthiest I've ever been in my entire life. And this was around the time that I started to do what I call like kingdom work, in the sense of healing a lot of generational traumas and trading is what I call it. I started doing a lot of that, and I got this download that literally any kind of place on my body that looked abnormal, in the sense that it didn't look the healthiest, was probably an area that my body was holding on to weight, or was backed up, or had pain or issues because of generational stuff from my generational line. So I started to take sections of my body and deal with those generational traumas based on what I could see. It's like I would see like there's like indentions in my hips, in my fascia, to where it was like bumpy. And it looked like someone had a rope. It looked like an indention from a rope on my hips. So I would go and in the kingdom and look in my generational line and discover that there was trauma like around that area of my of my generational line, whoever it was happening to. And I would deal with it. And then my body would start to slowly not look like that anymore. And it was pretty amazing. And to me, that was kind of tied into the whole common sense of the issue. I found out very recently that a lot of jaw problems are related to your root chakra and your sacral chakra. And I was like, that makes so much sense, because what I have learned over the last couple of years is how incredibly unstable and unbalanced my root chakra has been my entire life, from my childhood and generational stuff. So I started to, after the birth of my son, I started to deal with a lot of root chakra. It innately made me deal with a lot of sacral chakra and root chakra things, because we can all guess why: childbirth. But I started to deal with it more and more, like circumstances of like state of security, like financially, physically, emotionally would come up, and I would try to deal with them when they came up, layer after layer after layer, because it's always like an onion. And then it was like once I stopped finding stuff to deal with in that area, I just like kind of felt God be like, why don't you just lay on the other side of your face, like sleep on the other side, because I had TMJ on this side. Yeah, not there anymore. And I would always sleep on this side of my face, but because of having my son, I had to now sleep on this side because he slept on that side of me. And I had chiropractors tell me, that it was impossible to fix TMJ, technically, because it's a joint and a socket. But once I dealt with most, I'm not saying it's all done, but most of my major root chakra, sacral chakra issues, I slept on this side of my face, I no longer have my jaw popping. It does not. I used to never be able to do that without it popping. And it started popping when I was 17. That was my foot. So it was like one of those things that was like, that is almost like common sense. Like if I'm putting so much pressure on this side of my jaw when I sleep, if I put pressure on this side of my jaw when I sleep, then it'll push it back and realign. And that's exactly what it did. And so I just think about these things and how through healing internally gave me the idea to heal something kind of external that had to do with my body. And it worked. It completely worked. I have not had jaw pain or popping in my jaw ever since. And there's so many times that, you know, like diet culture diet culture has literally bombarded and crushed women's hormones on purpose, I'm sure, on purpose. But, you know, we are not men. We are meant to eat differently than men. We don't have the same biological makeup as men on purpose. And it takes a lot more energy for our bodies to regulate, because we have different hormones every single week of the month. And diet culture will tell you to eat like a man or not eat, and like intermittent fast and stuff like that. I'm all for it for a time, but it's not something that we were ever actually meant to be like. Because if you think about it, our bodies are made to literally be a portal from the spirit realm to the earth. That takes a whole lot of energy. Like, that takes a whole lot of calories and carbs, and this idea that we need to be stick skinny and look like men and have no curves is extremely unhealthy and goes against the natural essence of women in general. And if you think about it, even that's kind of common sense that we have completely steered away from. But I personally am getting back to it. That's why I feel the need to talk about it. I used to not let myself eat, like hardly ever. I would like literally starve myself and then wonder why I felt crazy. And it's because I had way too many hormones and needed way more calories to be able to think properly. So, yeah, I just believe a lot of health comes down to common sense. If you really stop and think about it and piece it together, put the pieces together, it ends up making a lot more sense, and it ends up being a lot less complicated than we make it. So that's all I have for today. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and continue on this journey with me of health through common sense. Bye.